So the Premier League season is back and we're starting it off the bat with probably one of the biggest games of the season. I would say my biggest game of the season, Man United playing Arsenal at Old Trafford. We can't stand Arsenal fans. United fans can't, the whole world can't really. And this is why we have to do justice. They've gone and signed Gyökeres thinking that we wanted Gyökeres in the first place. When we categorically know that United Ineos, we weren't in for Gyökeres because we wanted Liam Delap. Liam Delap didn't come. And then after that, we were assessing our options. The only player we really went in for, the only player we placed a bid for was Benjamin Sesko. So in that case, we need to shut Arsenal fans up about that. And now they're going to start talking about, oh, we have Zubimendi, we have Madueke. Those names that scare you? Well, for me, not really. However, I will say this much. Their transfer window has been great. They play the same stupid football that they've been playing last season. Which is what really, what do Arsenal play? What is Arsenal's style of play? They used to play very well in 22-23 and 23-24, I would say Arsenal peaked. The defense was on point, the attack was on point, the balance was just there. They just didn't have the mentality to make it through. And you know what? Fair play. They've made it 92 points. They pushed City. But what happened last season was that everything unfolded. They saw that when they don't have Saka, they struggle. When they don't have Saliba, when they don't have Gabriel, if they are missing any one piece in that puzzle, they are struggling. So what have they gone and done? They've gone and got Zubimendi. So Partey's leaving, Zubimendi in. I would say like for like replacement. Zubimendi is really not a bad player at all. And to control midfields, I think Zubimendi would be a perfect player for them. But the physicality argument always comes back, isn't it? Because we have seen some technically very good footballers. Example in our team, Casemiro. We see Casemiro play. And we know he's a technically good footballer, which is why in Europe, when we were playing in the Europa League, Casemiro was A-tier, A-star. But in the Premier League, he looks like Sean Longstaff. And this is why I think the physicality aspect is very important as well. We need to see how Zubimendi fits in with the Premier League's physicality. Technically, I don't question his ability. I think he's an amazing footballer. But what about physically? Which brings me to the next player that they signed, Madueke. Now, at first, when I saw the Madueke links, I thought, you can't be doing this again, right? So we went and signed Mount. Stupid deal. Arsenal went, and the same summer, they've gone and signed Havertz for around 70 million. They signed Havertz for more than we signed Mount for. So now I'm thinking, okay, you've already spent that money on Havertz, and for some reason, Arsenal fans think he was a brilliant success, even though he was a net negative considering he wanted to play in midfield. Then he was pushed forward, and then as a forward, he did do pretty decent, but he could have given so much more offensively in output in terms of conversion rate. For the chances Arsenal were creating, Havertz 15 Premier League goals, 17 Premier League goals, that was generous. He could have got a lot more. And so you go and buy Madueke, another Chelsea reject, Chelsea flop. Chelsea did not want him at all. Madueke was a player that Chelsea fans were begging, please leave our club. And guess what? He's just gone and left their club. Now Madueke is in, and next we have Gyökeres. Gyökeres, finishing wise, I don't question his ability. I've seen this guy, he can really cause us a problem. And I'll come to the predictions in a bit, so you'll know exactly what I think is going to happen in this game. But Gyökeres, you know what? Would I have minded him at United? No. Would I have taken him? I would have taken him over Sesko. But let's be honest, if you look at the blend of this Arsenal team, Gyökeres, you have to play a certain way. And what is that certain way? You play transition. Gyökeres is built on pace, speed, and pretty much bullying defenses on the break. If you were to tell me that Gyökeres is a possession-based player, it's not that easy. You could say in the mold of an Erling Haaland, not exactly, but it's a similar idea. He needs pace in behind. He needs space to run into, to get into the positions. Now, is he going to be a goal poacher? He could be. And it remains to be seen how Arsenal play this system. But from what I've seen, they're trying to still figure out how to play with a striker, even though they've had, 2-3 years of figuring this same thing out. We all have said Arsenal's main weakness was they're missing a striker. They have a right winger, they have a left winger, they have midfielders for days, by the way, and defenders for days, and a goalkeeper. And all these positions are good, but you need a striker. So they've dipped into the striker market, and they found Victor Gyökeres, good striker. But now it remains to be seen how does it all fit into the team. Now, you see the game against Tottenham that they played in preseason. Yes, it's preseason. Yes, we're not going to take it all completely seriously. But I'll tell you this much. I've seen United play in preseason and I have an idea of what we want to do. Arsenal, the same. The one thing I see common from both teams is that they're kind of lost, that they don't have an identity. And in our case, we're trying to transition into this new system, but then there are flaws which I'll cover in a bit. And with Arsenal, there are similar flaws, though in very different areas. In Arsenal's case, the midfield is packed and the midfield is pretty solid. But you go to the defense, again, pretty solid. But the offense, it isn't as fluid as it once used to be. Now, they have Max Darman, who I think is an insane player, by the way. 15-year-old, but he's insane. They have Ethan Nwaneri. Now, couldn't you just play Nwaneri on one wing, Saka on another wing, and then maybe put Gyökeres through? That's a possibility, but at the same time, you have to consider Saka's a creator, yes, but he's also one of their main sources for goals. So now, if you pair Saka with Gyökeres, how is that going to work? Because then you're taking away Saka's goals, which you know is a guarantee in the Premier League. But now Gyökeres is an unknown ability. So if you're trying to say that these wingers now have to play into Gyökeres, how is that going to work? Ethan Nwaneri, again, he, on the other hand, is more of a creator anyways. So if you could field Nwaneri and Saka with Gyökeres, it could do much better. Now, what is going to happen at Old Trafford? Well, the more I see this team and how both teams are going to play, we know it's going to be exactly as it has been for the last 3 years. So Arsenal's going to come with the idea of dominating possession at Old Trafford, grinding us down slowly. And we are going to come with the idea of, we're just going to counter you. We're going to do what we want. And what we want is, we're going to counter you, and with quick transition play, what we tried to do in the Bournemouth game, what we did in the Everton game, that's what we're going to try to replicate against Arsenal at Old Trafford. We're not going to come to play football. We're going to just come and think about efficiency, efficiency, efficiency. Now, this is where it gets interesting. What is the lineup going to be? What are we even thinking about fielding against Arsenal? So, one thing we know is that against Arsenal, historically, they have very, 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 very solid defenders. Their centre-back line is probably the best in the Premier League. And nobody's going to argue with that. Gabriel and Saliba are A-tier. But the one time I saw Gabriel and Saliba with my own eyes against United struggling was actually when we played them in the FA Cup. When we played them in the FA Cup, instead of playing a pace in behind striker or a physical striker as they call it, we dropped Zirkzee into striker, and Zirkzee was humiliating both pairs of centre-backs and their defence. The entire team was in disarray. So now we're thinking, we want to replicate the same system, but we don't have Zirkzee at the moment, right? Because I don't know what Amram's going to do, but as we know now, Zirkzee has not had preseason. Or if you want the athletic option in Benjamin Sesko, even he's not had preseason either. So this leaves you really with a replication of what we did against Fiorentina, against Everton. We're probably going to play Mbumo with Cunha striker that is, and then Bruno Fernandes in behind. Now this means we don't know what is going to happen with Casemiro and Mino, because that might be the midfield. Now, do you want to go into a game against Arsenal, who you can say whatever you like about Arsenal, maybe they might not have the best mentality or whatever, but in a one-off game, in a game where we know that they're physically dominant in the midfield with Declan Rice, with Zubimendi, Odegaard, whoever you want really, you know that they're going to have technical ability, they're going to have physicality, or at least a blend of it here and there. And you want to play that against Casemiro and Mino, I think Arsenal's having a field day. Which is why, as much as I don't want to see this, because we're trying to play a defensive team in this game, I would rather actually see Manuel Ugarte and Bruno Fernandes in midfield. And then, you know what? If there's a chance, drop Zirkzee into striker or number 10. And let's play Cunha, Mbomo and Zirkzee. Because the one thing that Arsenal do struggle with is technical ballers. Physicality they can deal with. But technical ability, it's not the best from what I've seen. And obviously, we have Ahmad and Dogo down the wings. So we're going to have a fusion of pace and technical ability. But the thing is, we need to try keeping the ball transition, but do not transition with long balls all the time. This is what's pissing me off every single game I see of United. Under Amorim, it's not even an Amorim thing, to be fair. It was under Amorim, it was under Ten Hag. We just love long balls, even under Ole. We love to ping a long ball into the striker or into the wingers, hoping that they run onto it. Why is this? Because if you think back to 2019, 2020, we always had Marcus Rashford to run onto balls. And when Rashford was running through, it was usually who was giving the balls? It was Pogba. And when Pogba services the ball, you know where the ball is ending up. And when Rashford makes a run, back in those days, you know exactly that he's going to nail that first touch and then he's through on goal. But we don't have that anymore. Yes, Mbumo, yes, Cunha, but they're going to take time to settle in. But when it comes to the midfield, Bruno Fernandes, like I've said many times before, Bruno Fernandes is a hit or miss player. He can be very good on his day, he can be very bad. And we don't want to risk that against Arsenal, especially because you can say what you like about Arsenal, but they can transition pretty well. And in this game, it's going to be so essential that our midfield holes are plugged. Now, do I think those midfield holes are going to be plugged? Not at all. Which is why it might be such a foregone conclusion that, oh, in that case, Arsenal have a dominant midfield, United don't. So Arsenal's going to smash United 0-3, 0-4 at Old Trafford and game over. But this is where you have to consider other elements. And what are the other elements? Historical ability. Look at what happens at Old Trafford. When's the last time Arsenal thrashed us at Old Trafford? When's the last time Arsenal had a purely dominant performance at Old Trafford? That was 2 seasons ago. You could say they had a dominant performance, but they did not create much. And that was prime Arsenal, you would say, in recent years at least. And last year, where they were supposed to finish second, we dominated the game, which was very surprising. We took the lead, conceded the lead, but even in all that time, we know that that game should have ended 4-1, 5-1, 6-1 to United because we were creating so much more. Had we had Mbomo or Cunha instead of Garnacho or Hoyland that day, who knows, it could have been 4, it could have been 5. But it's all about what team are you facing on what day. And in our case, at Old Trafford against Arsenal, we have a very good record, which is why you can never discount us from drawing or even winning this game. So, considering everything, Arsenal have a very good team, but their play has been very mixed throughout preseason. Against Athletic Bilbao, they were good, but the only reason I don't really count that is because look at what we did to Bilbao. Home and away. Call it whatever you want. Red card, blue card, whatever. But we still smashed them home and away. So I have Arsenal by the same scoreline. So would I be impressed by that? Not really. And don't forget, they need to integrate with the new players as well, because you can very much expect that Madueke is going to be starting on the left flank. It's not going to be Manieri. It's not going to be Max Dauman either. And Gyökeres up front. But how fit is Gyökeres is a totally different question. And that has been called into question all throughout preseason. Now, in the midfield, we know that Zubimendi, Rice and Odegaard, that's probably going to be the midfield. And that's going to dominate our midfield. Yes, I don't concede that. But it's about how we're going to play against them in transition. Because we're going to have the ball sometimes. And one thing I can always compliment United about this preseason, though there was a midfield gap, the transition from defense to attack, bypassing the midfield, has been insanely fast. And I will always give us that. Like at Old Trafford, we've done this so many times to Arsenal before. Transition play and we score goals and we annihilate them. Happens before. So, end of all this, what do I say? My score prediction is going to be first game of the Premier League season. How we're going to start this Premier League season at Old Trafford. So, I'm going to say United 1, Arsenal 1. It's going to be a draw. It's going to be a very similar game to what happened last season, where everybody expects Arsenal to win. And even I would normally expect Arsenal to win. It's only because it is the first day of the season and it's at Old Trafford. We usually dominate everybody at Old Trafford. You look at the first day record, I think United are probably top. I don't even remember the last time that we lost our first opening day game at home. Probably Swansea at home all those years ago. So, yes, it's Arsenal. Yes, Arsenal are better in the midfield. But transition wise, I think United can nick a goal. And then after that, it's all about our luck because we know Onana and Bayern aren't the best. At the same time, we know that Delict Euro can just clutch up sometimes. So it's really a mixed bag with Arsenal as well. We don't know how Gyökeres is going to play that day. We don't know how Madueke is going to play. Has Zubimendi really acclimatized to the Premier League physicality? All that remains to be seen. Going to be an interesting game. This is exactly what I wanted, by the way, for the first game of the season. I want a hard test. So we can see we're not bullshitting anybody. We're into it. No momentum behind us, no negative momentum behind us. We're into the action straight up. Let's see how we do against a big team. Because this is what's going to determine to me whether Amarim has been able to work on things or no. So far, from what I've seen in preseason, it's not looking good. But can all this change in the Premier League season? Of course it can, because I've seen in previous seasons, our preseason was pretty bad, but then our season turns out to be good. Or our preseason turns out to be excellent, and then our season turns out to be bad. It can always happen. It's all about what happens in the pressure moments. We brought in players who can deal with pressure moments. That's the best thing I can say. And if we were to get Baliba much sooner, that would have been amazing. But well, it's not going to happen now. So with the team we have now, I think a 1-1 draw is the best we can hope for and is what I think will happen. So what do you guys think? Comment down below your predictions. What do you think is going to happen in the first Premier League game of the season? And your season predictions down below in the comments. And I'll see you all in the next one.